Welcome back to another episode of On a Mission. I'm your host, Dr. Wendy Norfleet with Norfleet Integrated Solutions, and it's my pleasure to have with me today Phillip Burt with Southern States Material Handling. Welcome, Phillip.
Glad to be here.
So, Phillip, tell me a little bit about yourself. We talked a little bit, so I know, but I know you were in the Navy, so just kind of tell us a little bit.
Sure. I was born and raised here in Jacksonville, and I joined the Navy at 18, and then kind of earned my way up from enlisted to officer, and I retired in 2019 as a Chief Warrant Officer.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
And thank you for your service.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being someone worth serving.
So how do you get from there to Southern States Material Handling?
It's funny. I really didn't know that this industry existed. My son played baseball, and so one of the dads from one of his teammates and I got to talk to him while we were watching them play. And he's like, "Have you ever heard of, material handling industry?" And I'm like, "No." And he's like, "Well, send me your resume." And so I sent him my resume. The next day, the HR director called me and said, "Hey, are you available for dinner tonight?" So the vice president of the company drove up from Tampa. That's our headquarters. He drove up. We had dinner, had a good conversation. A week later, they offered me a position. And I've been with them ever since.
Wow. So tell us a little bit, because the name is kind of deceiving. Because before I read the description, I was like, materials handling, what does that mean? And so what is material handling? What does that encompass?
So we are your one-stop shop for solutions, anything warehouse. So you see in Jacksonville all the warehouses that are going up.
Yes, more and more. People are looking
day.
for commercial space.
So we want you to focus on your business, and we will handle like your forklifts, your racking, your design layout, so you can maximize your space and get the biggest return on investment that you can make. So we do everything from electric, diesel, like THD, the big equipment, pallet jacks, reach trucks, automation, you name it. If you have a problem, we can figure it out and how to solve it.
Okay. So do you just kind of solve the problems, or do you actually provide those things too?
We provide them too. So we're sales, service, parts,
rentals. So everything.
Rentals. We're everything. A one-stop shop. You partner with us, and then we take care of all your material handling needs, service, anything. And we have 68 technicians right now ready to serve, and I don't think any other material handling company has that many technicians ready and willing to come out and be there to take care of you.
Wow. So what's, and just give people the scope of kind of what you do, what's like a really something out of the ordinary or something different that you've handled and had to kind of see it through where you got a work client?
Sure. So we have a big data analytics department. And so we were looking at a client that had a bunch of trucks. They bought a bunch of forklifts. Some of them were getting used like every day, 12 hours a day. And some of them were only being used 3 or 4 hours a day. So we were able to identify which trucks were getting the most use, when they should swap them out, so they can maximize the life of their equipment. So they're not having to buy new equipment like every 4 years. We can stretch that out, and they can get a better value out of their equipment.
And that's a great example. People don't understand that how valuable data is.
Sure.
When we understand that, we are able to make predictions and or see trends where we can kind of adjust them a little bit in favor of the client, like you did.
Sure, and we could do that on a big scale, like a 200 truck, like a big company like Amazon, or we can do it with a mom and pop. Like we can maximize how much storage you have, how many pallet positions by installing racking and measuring out what type of equipment goes in can be the most effective in your warehouse.
That's great. So you really can help them really be more efficient.
Sure.
Because sometimes that's what it's about. We think we need all this space. I had a client that bought a whole warehouse just for an office grouping and didn't need the rest of it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we could maximize your space so that every inch that you have in there is utilized for something. So you're getting value out of all of that.
Wow, that is awesome. So what do you see as the trend for this, this industry? Because obviously you are doing a lot and you see a lot.
Sure. Well, everything is trying to go electric right now. So the battery industry is pushing forward. Like there's new innovations with automation. With the pandemic, a lot of the warehouse workers, it was hard to find warehouse workers.
Right.
So that pushed a lot of companies to look at automation, robotics, conveyor systems. Those things are kind of the wave of the future that's coming.
Right.
Within the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to see completely like dark warehouses where it's all robotics and all automation. There's just a few people there to maintain the equipment.
So so obviously you deal a lot with robotics too.
Sure.
So do you also do the ones in the restaurant? I was in a restaurant the other day, and the little robot comes out with the thing, and they were sending out the appetizers. And I was so funny because I was talking to the owner. He says, "We can't seem to keep people, so we invested in some of these."
We have a dealer that we partner with that can do that
Okay.
exact thing.
Okay.
So bringing parts out to our technicians essentially. So.
Wow. And just think, I'm from Michigan, so I saw some of the earlier robotics in the auto industry. When I first got out of, first got into the industry, I was IT initially. And it's just so amazing how they've, continued to evolve. Because
Sure.
we thought they were like the latest and greatest then, and now we see the stuff that can happen now. It's just amazing.
Well, AI is revolutionizing
Isn't it
everything. Everything. It's scary. I mean,
It is scary. It is scary because it's like, okay, are we going to think for ourselves in the future?
I mean, but the innovations, the applications that you can put that into, it can make us more efficient. It can save us money. It can make us more productive, and that's really going to help everybody. It's going to help the community.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of good. We have to be cautious with it, but
We do. We have to make sure that we understand the power of it, and that we know how we want to use it, not just AI for AI's sake.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate talking with you, and you guys are doing such great work, and I appreciate you and everything you guys do for the community.
Well, thank you. Glad to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us today, and I bet you learned a lot about Southern States Material Handling. I did. So we'll see you next time on Buzz TV.